Yep.
Excellent. So I'm going to talk tonight about preparing for exams in Dynamics 365. A little bit about myself. Thank you, Anna, for introducing me. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I've trained a few thousand people now in Dynamics. I've also got about 50 certifications in Dynamics and Azure and other things since I started in 2003. I'm also part of the Dynamics Readiness team, so some of the workshops you'll see the DLP I deliver, and I deliver some other stuff for Microsoft. But let's get straight into it. So just to be clear, this isn't a session on the actual questions in the exam. It's more about the exam process and the experience, so that when you actually get to the exam, you're ready for it. Most people fail because they're either unprepared or they panic. I'm aiming to make this experience less stressful so that you can demonstrate what you know and what you've learned. It's the worst thing if you come out of an exam not realizing that you've done yourself justice. Okay, so I'm trying to demystify the exam experience. So when you actually go in, you don't panic. Okay, I'm going to start off with what Microsoft certification means and some of Microsoft's thinking behind the exams. I'm then going to talk about how you prepare for the exam. I'm going to give you some of the ways I prepare. Now, you're quite a long way along with Learn, Do, Earn, so I'm just going to point you at some other resources if you haven't found them already. I'm going to give you the URL, so don't worry. I'm going to give you all of these. One of the other issues people struggle with is actually signing up for the exam, so I'm going to take you through that process and what's involved signing up and registering. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the actual exam experience, what you'll face, what you'll see, and how it actually works. Now, if you want to ask questions as we go along, you're welcome to do so, but I'm going to leave. I've got time for questions at the end. Is that okay?
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds great. We're all muted because otherwise we come up in the...
Yeah, okay. All right. You can use the chat window as well. If you don't want to use the chat window, I'm monitoring the chat. So use that if you have any questions. I'll answer them. So if something springs to mind, just put it down there. I'll either answer it straight away or leave it to the end. Now, what I've done, I've got this PowerPoint and some other files on my OneDrive. That's the URL for it. So if you go to that URL, you can download these files. It'll have all the links in. I'm going to put this up at the end, so don't worry. I'm also going to try and put it in the chat window. Oops, no, I've moved on. I'll put it in the chat window as well, so you've got it. Just put that into your browser and you get the files that I'm going to, this PowerPoint and other things. So let's move on. Let's talk about Microsoft certification and what it means. So Microsoft has this idea or concept of what they call a minimal viable candidate. And a minimal viable candidate should be able to pass the exam. In Dynamics, I've heard people say that that's somebody who's got 6 months experience and who's been on some training. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. You don't need that amount of experience to pass the exam as long as you've done the work and read up on it. But what you must have is hands-on with the product. You must have some hands-on. So when you get into the exam, you can picture in your mind what the user interface is. Now, compared to some other Microsoft exams, Dynamics 365 exams are knowledge-based, not skills-based. Okay, so that means sometimes there's a little bit of an element of coming up with questions. So some of the questions are a bit of how to describe memory test, but others are quite straightforward. You don't, but what it doesn't mean you don't have to know how to actually do something. It's more about knowledge of what's possible and what you're capable of doing. It's not going to ask you what are the steps required to add a product to a price list. It's not going to ask you click on here, do this, do that. It's going to ask you more high level questions than that. Now, in terms of the exam, it's 45 to 50 multiple choice questions in which you have 90 minutes. Now, that doesn't sound a long time, and I'm going to give you some hints and tips on how to manage that time effectively. Don't worry, nobody ever runs out of time. Okay. So these are just some little things here. But from my viewpoint, you've got to get to know the product, understand what's required in the exam, and get some experience with hands-on. Now, how do you prepare for a dynamics exam? Well, the way I start is I look at the objective domain. So you're going to ask me, what's the objective domain? And I'm going to tell you. The objective domain, can you see my screen now where it's switched to the exam page? Yeah, so I'm just holding fingers up, you're good. So on the exam page, if I scroll down on here, it's got skills measured, and it's got it in 6 categories or 6 sections, creating a customer organization structure. And I expand that out, then it's got 4 sections within it with the description of what's in the exam. So these are what Microsoft call the objective domain. This is, they say, what's in the exam. Now, some of these are a little bit woolly or broad, but something that gives you an idea of what's in there. It mentions creating sales literature, managing and tracking competitors. I know that's something you've not done so far, but that's in the exam and it's in there in a little heading. So I suspect there might be a question on that. I can't guarantee it, but it might be one of the things I'll ask. So the way I go through exams, I have a look at my objective domain and I work my way through this. Now, if you look at the actual percentages, that's the percentage of questions. So 25% on organizational structure. But if you actually add all those, that's more than 100. This is because some questions can cover more than one area. Just to be aware, if it's not mentioned, Microsoft reserve the right to ask questions not listed. Sometimes they do, but most vast majority of the questions will be related to topics listed in here. And because sales is pretty well defined, there isn't much scope for Microsoft to push the boundaries and ask odd things that aren't on here. So the way I prepare is I review the skills measure. That's the URL I've just been at. And what I do is I create a spreadsheet where I copy in the objective domain and then list out all the training sources and map them to the areas in the objective domain. And I've done that on a spreadsheet, which I've uploaded onto the slide. And here it is. I don't know if you can see that. Is it a bit small?
It could be a bit bigger.
Okay, let's zoom it up a bit. It's my screen resolution. Where's my mouse? And now my mouse has disappeared. Okay, let's move it up. Yeah. So in here, I've basically copied out from the Microsoft page the objective domain. And then what I've done in here, these are the sources of my information. So I've listed here these, the first 3, I'm going to talk about in a minute, they're from the Dynamics Learning Portal. The next one's from an edX course. And then what I've tried to map it on, based on my quick look at your what you've done so far on the website, is which sessions map onto those areas. So session 1, you cover customer records and organization structure, accounts and contacts. In session 3, you cover business processes. So it's a good way of revising, going through this. And the way I work is I go through this and I check things off when I've done my revision. So I know what I've done, or I'll change it to a percentage. I've done 80% of it or so often. So I've done this for you. It's in that in my OneDrive. So you'll be able to go and have a look at that. Right, in terms of available material, there is no official Microsoft training material at the moment, but Microsoft have been very good with their docs.microsoft.com site. So let me show you docs.microsoft.com if I can find it. So docs.microsoft.com is Microsoft's documentation site. They're moving everything onto here. And if you go into this, there is everything you need to know is covered in here. Okay, including little videos. So it's a way to go through and look through all of this. It's got, for instance, competitors, which we talked about a second ago. It goes through that. Now it's more of a how-to than why or what, but it gives you a rough overview of everything else. The other 3 resources in the Dynamics Learning Portal, I put links in. There are 3 specific courses in the DLP that are relevant. and I've mapped those on the spreadsheet. If you haven't got access to the DLP, and I understand some of you haven't, then use the docs.microsoft.com, go back and look at the recordings from Learn to Earn. And also there's an edX course. edX is an open source learning, and Microsoft have put a course up there called 81900. Which one is it? Here it is. So if you go to the link, it's this one called Managing Customer Engagement with Microsoft Dynamics 365, and it's a full Dynamics review, but there's a section on sales. There's an introduction section worth watching, and then there's a sales section. And that doesn't cost anything. You can just sign up and go through that. So they're my main learning resources. In terms of revision, there are no official exams, practice exams for Dynamics. What there are is at the end of each DLP module, there are questions. There is also the questions on the edX course at the end of the sales module, and also there's an end of course assessment. And finally, if you've got access to the DLP, there is a sales assessment, which is 15 questions. Now, I won't say these are very good questions. For instance, I took the sales assessment and failed it, but I passed the exam. I don't think the questions are particularly good in terms of how they're not very good quality. The normal exams go through a quality check. These I don't think went through the same level of quality validation, but they're a good way for you to learn the way questions are asked and to know, so you know what to expect. Now, just beware, you may see questions on the web. The only official Microsoft exam source for practice exams is a company called MeasureUp. Now, they don't do anything for Dynamics, but you'll see loads of other companies out there who are selling questions. They're what we call brain dumps, where they're created by people going in, remembering questions, and then writing them out when they get back. They misremember them. B, the questions they give are wrong. And C, if you found out using one of these, you get banned from ever taking any exam again, and your certifications are voided. And I have known it happen to people. So what I say is use the revision materials available, use the DLP, the edX questions, but mainly get hands-on. Create some leads and opportunities, convert leads to opportunities, create products, add them to opportunities, convert your opportunities to quotes, orders, and invoices. And while you're in the forms, take care to have a look at what's on the forms and what buttons are on the toolbars. I did mention this exact. They struggle to ask questions, so sometimes they ask what buttons are available or what options are available in certain areas. So particularly pay attention to the lead and the opportunity form. Also, terminology is important. Ensure you know the difference between what a lead and opportunity is. I know you've gone over that, but also things like what's a metric versus a goal, and a roll-up field versus a roll-up query. All right, they're different things. Microsoft likes to reuse the same words for different things. It's one of my pet peeves with Microsoft, this. But the best revision you can do is get hands-on. There's only so much reading you can do without actually getting your hands dirty. Anyway, let's move on. I'm trying to keep this down to half an hour. So what's involved in signing up for an exam? Well, the way I normally start is I start from the exam page, the MB2717 exam page. And if I just go back to that, if I scroll up to the top, you've got the button here says schedule exam. Well, when you do this, or if you're not logged in already, you will be asked to sign in with your Microsoft account. Now, I recommend you sign in with the same Microsoft account you use for your DLP. Okay. When you click in and sign in, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is fill in your Microsoft Learning profile. This is a profile for Microsoft. It says who you are, your name, address, and quite a lot of other information. Now, what's really, really, really important is the name you use must match the name on your passport or driving license. So if you've got married or divorced, or you've changed your name and you haven't, and your paperwork doesn't match what you currently use, then you will have a problem taking the exam. All right. Okay, so you create your Microsoft Learning profile with your legal name. And I did have somebody who admitted they were called something completely different to what I knew them as. They didn't like to have their legal persona on the web. He was an American living in Paris, obviously trying to avoid the American authorities. But you put your name in, and then you also have to create a second profile. But this is for Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE run the exams for Microsoft. And you basically have to put the same amount of information in again. You say the same legal name, address, email address, that sort of thing. Now, what you can do at this point, you can just cancel out. So I recommend you go after this call tonight, you go in and you create your profiles, because it's one thing less to worry about. And it does take about half an hour by the time you go through it all. So you create your profiles. Then when you come to schedule, you just say, I'll just cancel. But it's good practice to do this in advance. It's one less thing. It's less stressful. When it actually comes up to take the exam, now, assuming you've got your profiles all set up, you can start from the Microsoft page again, the exam page, and schedule. It'll just take you to confirm your profiles. When you come to register for the exam, you get a number of options, and there are two which are relevant. One is to take your exam at a test centre. Now, that's a physical building, and there are a number of them around the UK. Now, depending where you are, you might have one very close, or like me, my nearest one's 2 hours away. So you can go for a physical test centre. If you do that, you will need to book at least a few weeks in advance, because not all of them, some of them only open 1 day a week, and some of them will get booked up quite quickly. So typically you need to book a few weeks in advance, and then you'll need to travel to them, leave yourself enough time to arrive early, find somewhere to park, and relax before the exam. I remember going to one in Lichfield, and I got stuck on the A38, and I was exceeding the speed limit to get there in the end, and I couldn't find where it was. I couldn't find somewhere to park, so I rushed in. I was stressed. I mean, it wasn't a great experience, because if you schedule an exam, you schedule it for a time, and if you miss that time, you lose that time. So if you've got 90 minutes for the exam and you arrive half an hour later, you've only got 60 minutes. Typically, you can start an exam slightly earlier. That's not a problem, but later you lose the time. And to be honest, some of the test centers, if you arrive late, they say 15 minutes too late, they won't let you in. So we have an alternative there. The other thing about test centres, there aren't that many of them because they don't make much money from it. So they make about £5 per test taker. It's not a profitable business, so they drop out quite a lot. So we now have this option called online proctoring, where you take it at home. Now, I like this because you can take the exams up to 10 o'clock at night. And you can often book on the day, or at least 2 to 3 days in advance. And you can take any time during the day. The only issue is you need a clean room and a webcam and speakers. So like what we've got now, I've got a webcam, I've got speakers, because you book in over the web. You book in, you talk to somebody, they get you to show your room with your webcam. It takes you through it. You have to scan your desk. I've even had them scan my underside of my keyboard and underside of my mouse. They like you to scan the room. So you've got to declutter. Now, not everybody can do this. Now, occasionally I've known people, they do it in meeting rooms and work, if they can get a meeting room. But they're sort of hot on things like having other screens available. So if you have another screen, maybe just you have to take it off or cover it with a blanket. I tend to do mine in my bedroom in a corner. So looking at Anna's desk here, looking at her, she's got a nice clean background, no pictures on the wall, looks fine. But if you have other things on, maybe you need to declutter. It takes me a few hours. Now, I've written a little article on my blog, which will be in the links that Anna's going to share with you afterwards, so you can have a look at that. And the other thing I'm going to say, you have to download some software. There's a system test, and actually you'll find on the Microsoft.com/learning website a link to this test, where it downloads the software, and you have to test it. And I recommend you test it a week before, a day before, and 3 hours before the exam, because they have a tendency to apply updates. And you come to take the exam, I've had this 15 minutes before the exam, it wants to apply an update, then it wants a reboot, then you have to, it's stress, just get rid of the stress. Okay. And finally, you have to pay. Now, it's £113 plus VAT, which is around £130. I understand Microsoft might be generous and give you vouchers, but I've had this with Microsoft before where they appear or not. But there is an offer at the moment. If you take your first exam by the 30th of April, any subsequent exams the next 9 months, you get 25% off of the first exam and then 50% off of the second exam. So it's well worth getting your first exam in before the end of April. So, and if you decide to book it now and pay later, then you get a voucher from Microsoft. You can book your next exam because we want to get you on doing more. Okay. So that's signing up. Try and get signed up as soon as possible. Get the system test. Decide where you're going to take it. So if you are possibly try scheduling in, you don't actually have to commit yourself to. You actually put your payment details and hit the final submit. You can go all the way through and just cancel at the end if you want to see what time slots are available, which test centers are near me, which are open. Okay, just give it a whirl. Right, the exam experience. This is the thing that everybody dreads. Right, because most of you won't have taken an exam or take an exam for ages. I get people who've not taken an exam for 30 years, and it's quite traumatic. And there is a certain skill in taking these exams. Now, there are between 45 to 50 multiple choice questions in the exam. Sometimes it's 48, sometimes it's 46. Sometimes they put beta questions in. They're just testing out the questions. But you get 90 minutes for the actual exam itself, plus some extra time around for signing up, signing the NDA, doing surveys, adding feedback. So I think it comes out about 150 minutes in total. But you actually get 90 minutes for the actual core exam. Now, all the questions are multiple choice in the Dynamics exams. Now, Microsoft have about 10 different question types. Some of them are really hard. If you go on to do the Azure exams, they're tough. They have case studies and scenarios and lots of other things. But we're quite lucky in Dynamics. We just basically get 2 types of question: a multiple choice and a best answer. So I'm going to show you what a multiple choice looks like. And I've got it. Here's what it looks like. I'm just going to make this full screen. Hopefully you can see this. Again, I've got links on the video. So did you hear the person talking, or was it silent? Sorry, Anna.
It was silent.
Okay, I could hear it. You couldn't. Okay, sorry about that. But that just shows you what they look like. They look like that. I mean, they're not hard. They're horrible questions. That's PowerShell and other things. It's not Dynamics, but it gives you the idea of what it looks like. You get a bunch of text in the question, then you get a series of answers. It's either radio buttons, choose one, or sometimes it's choose two.
Yeah, the questions were well scary. So
those are well scary. They're not like you won't get those, right? So then there's best answer questions. I won't show any more of that because you can go and have a look at that and see what they're like. So my secret is you read the question carefully. Most people fail because they fail to read the question properly. And Microsoft do like to trick you. They might change one word and it changes the answer. So what we do is we read the question carefully, select the answer and click on next, and you move on to the next question. Now, here's my exam technique. If you're unsure, select your best guess and move on. Do not sit and stare at a question because this is all about time management. You do not have enough time to go through all the questions twice. So what we do is if you're unsure of the answer, and you think you know what it is, check that answer. There's a little checkbox at the top left called Mark for Review. Mark it for a review. And that means you can come back to it later. And again, I've got a couple of videos in there that shows you how it works. If you don't have to answer, if you just don't know the answer, just click on just click on next and come back to it. And I'll tell you a story. I took the CRM 2016 online deployment exam, and I went in, and the first question was really hard, and it threw me. It was like, whoa, this is super hard. So what I did is I think, okay, I'm going to come back to it. I hit on next. The next 4 questions I failed to answer because I was still thinking about that first question. But what I did is I just marked the review and moved on. And then suddenly I got a question I could answer. And then I got another question I could answer. And then I built up my rhythm, and I was able to really go, I relaxed again. And then at the end, I went through the mark for review. At the end, there's a review screen. I'll show you what it looks like. The review screen at the end looks like this. So when if I just maximize it. So when you've answered the last question, you get this review screen. And it shows you the number unanswered. If you click on the red tile, it'll just take you to those 2 questions you failed to answer. And you make sure you get answered. So the first thing you always must use, your unanswered must always be 0. So you've answered every question. Then I've marked a number for review. Now, I typically mark 15 to 20 questions for a review. And what I do is I click on that review and I go through those review questions. And what I do is if I'm happy with the answer, I uncheck the mark review and move on to next. And I just go round the loop. I go from 15 down to 8, down to 4, down to 2. And then I can spend more time thinking about those questions. I'm managing my time. Now, you're not going to be able to answer every question. It's just not possible. Sorry, I've lost my slide. Sorry, I've started the video and it's playing in my ear, so I can't hear what I'm saying. Sorry, let me. So I just need to stop this. It's playing. That's better. Right. So, yeah, we have a rule when we take an exam. We don't change an answer unless you're sure you misread the question or you can 100% convinced you got it wrong, because your mind will play tricks on you. You'll second guess. So I always just go, your gut instinct is more likely to be right. Microsoft has figures that say you're 9 times more likely to change a right answer to a wrong answer than a wrong answer to a right answer. It's that significant. And you don't have to use all the time. If you've finished your review and you're done, just exit the exam. Don't sit and wait. The worst thing you do is sit and wait and just play around changing the answers, because you will guarantee you will fail. And I've had people come out of exams, we go through it and say, oh, I changed this to this. You know they've changed and they've missed it. Now, in terms of the exam, it's scored out of 1,000 and the pass is 700. It's not 70%. There's an awful lot of stuff around it. Some questions are harder than others, so the questions are weighted. Now, when you pass, you'll get a breakdown, because you're not going to fail, are you? When you pass, you'll get a breakdown by those 6 sections in the exam. Break down those OD topics. So that helps you know how well you've done. It won't tell you which ones you've got wrong. And you can go to the Microsoft.com website and download your result, and you'll get a result downloaded. Where's mine gone? It's disappeared. I must have closed it. Yes, I think I've closed my one I had up. But you can go into your page, you can go and view your school report from within the Microsoft.com website, learning website, and you'll be able to go and download your results. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Julian.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I think that you told me once that you must accept the NDA within 10 minutes, otherwise it terminates the exam.
Yeah. So when you first go into the exam, you're given an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and you have to scroll down. Or you just scroll down to the end and click I agree. If you take too long, or you click I do not agree, your exam will end and you lose your money. But the NDA basically says you're not allowed to discuss the answers or questions with anybody else. So I think it has 10 minutes to read it. I never read it. I just scroll to the end, select I agree. Because what, you're taking it. You can't negotiate with Microsoft. So I've put the URL up there again if you didn't get it before, to download those files.
Anita's asking whether we get the results straight away.
You do. Well, what happens when you click end exam? You get the opportunity to give feedback on the questions. You get 10 minutes for feedback, and then when you end the feedback, you then get your result. So I just, unless I'm feeling particularly annoyed, I just don't give feedback. Yeah, but you do get your results straight away. It's like the longest 2 seconds in your life. Well, it's coming up with your congratulations, you've passed, and it gives you your score out of 1,000.
Does that mean that you can? Do you get the option to skip the feedback section?
Yeah, you can just end feedback. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you end the exam, there says give feedback, you just say end feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like you can go back to your exam. So once you've said, yeah, it'll tell you. So you will say that's it. If you click next, you can't go back.
Yeah. You can see that you can go back and edit, look at the questions and add feedback on them. But to be honest, most people never give feedback. It's only really useful to give feedback when exams are very new. Now these exams have been out over a year. So on very new exams, sometimes there are things wrong with them. They get fixed, they get looked at all the time and adjusted. So I don't suspect you'll have many problems.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said. Actually, it did happen to me that I had to go through some dumpsters into a very questionable area to take an exam. Yeah. I was late and scared. It was dark as well.
Yeah. If any of you in Manchester, the exam centre in Manchester is on Cheetham Hill. Now you wouldn't pay me to go there without a tank.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. It's great that you can do it remotely now. The other thing that I would mention, and you touched on it quite a lot, is reviewing questions. While reviewing questions is a great thing, because you can go back to questions. I have the only exam I've ever failed. I failed it because I decided that I would answer better. And then I failed. So as you said, our gut instinct is the best. The other thing, so you said that we won't get asked on, what's the sequence to add a product or anything like that.
No, it's not. You won't get asked like very technical, detailed questions. It's more like, yes, you what's the order to add a product? So yes, it's creating a unit group first, then creating the product for that unit group, then creating a price list item to link it to the product. That's the sort of thing, rather than in a very detailed, like those questions I showed you on the video. They're like very detailed, they're skills based type questions rather than knowledge. So it's a knowledge of what you need to do rather than exactly how you need to do it.
So what is that knowledge based? Because I don't.
It means around knowing what the product can do rather than skill in what's involved in actually doing it. So on some of these Azure exams, for instance, you need to know the actual commands rather than saying, no, I can create a virtual machine in Azure. So the sort of question might be in Dynamics is which of these entities is used to monitor or is used for I'm trying to think of a thing without giving exam question away. is used to track interactions with customers. And you'll have a choice of 4. You'll have activities, which will be the answer, or notes, which isn't the answer, or connections, or so there'll be 4 things in there. It'll be that sort of level. Those are what I call the easy questions. Then you're always going to have a handful of really difficult questions. Nobody ever gets over 900. I got the high 800s on this exam. Mainly because I didn't study for it, but most people I know take it, they get in the high 700s, low 800s. Very few people get in any of the dynamics exams get over 900 unless they really know the stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Unless you have really a lot of hands-on experience with it.
Yeah, part of the problem is though that people who've used dynamics for sales, they go, "Oh, I can take this exam and pass because I use sales." But what they don't do is they will have never done any orders or invoices. They won't have used connections, or they won't have used sales literature, or they won't have done. A lot of people never use goals, even though I like them. I know you like them. But when they get to those questions in the exam, they just don't know what to do. This is why you need to spend your time in all the bits of the application. And the other side of it is a lot of people use a very customized version of Dynamics, whereas the exam is all around the vanilla out the box, what's on the forms. What are the options? Now, if you've worked in Dynamics, you know that the lead form tends to get very heavily customized. It's tailored, things get removed. And so you need to spend time in that's why trials are good, because you get the vanilla experience.
Okay, so as a top thing that you think we should do is, if I got this right, is basically go back to the subjects that you're expected to know. So with those subjects, I had problems identifying what they actually wanted from me.
Yeah.
So if you go on, I don't know, you had a term for it. If you go on the
objective domain, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they have details on them.
Yeah.
It doesn't state that clearly what you have to know.
No, they're a bit vague. I think they're deliberate. Yeah, I mean, for instance, it's got one on social engagement, which says create and manage social engagement sources. So you need to know where social engagement gets its data from, which is Twitter, Facebook, RSS feeds. It doesn't get it from Instagram. You need to know what it doesn't get it from, which is Instagram. What's the other social media? It only gets it from certain sources. It doesn't get it from every source. So it's mainly Twitter, Facebook, RSS feeds, news feeds, but not Instagram, not
LinkedIn?
Sorry?
No LinkedIn?
Not LinkedIn, no. No, that's another. That's coming separately. Mm-hmm. The social engagement doesn't look. Yeah. So that's in the DLP. If you were to go into the DLP into that module, there's a module which goes as a slide or two on it. You'll see them listed.
Yeah.
So when it says create and maintain or sales literature request, create and maintain a sales literature repository, it wants you to know how to create sales literature, know that you can then you add documents into sales literature, then you can send them from within emails.
So is everything we need for the exam actually on the DLP? If we troll our way through the courses on the DLP?
It should be, yes.
Okay. And is it also in the docs? Sorry.
The docs,
because they are quite old.
Yeah, but then this exam's a year old, so they haven't updated it as far as I know. For instance, I mean, the customer service exam, they've got stuff from the previous version still in the exam. This one's pretty good. It's Dynamics 365 version 8.0, 8.2. I'm not sure. I think it's 8.2, which came out. That's a December 2016 release, or beginning of 2017 release. Yeah.
I think it was a spring release.
Yeah, 2017. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the releases a bit late.
They have.
Yeah, so some things are a bit vague, but when you look at things here, so it's just a matter of going through. Now, the docs.microsoft.com, it tells you how to do things, like it tells you how to create a competitor and how to create sales literature, but it doesn't really tell you why.
Yeah, so that's the thing. How can you, because it feels that so I took this exam in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Within 2016, they used to be all business focused. So they were more like, oh, if you had to decide between doing things this way or that way, what would you do?
The 2016 exams were a bit of a mess. All of them were. They really got a bit confused in technical and business. This is very much, they made it a mixture of business and technical in 2016. This is a purely functional exam.
Okay.
Now,
Because the 2016 one was horrible, especially, I mean, it contained a lot more. So the most difficult part from my point of view was the scheduling thing.
yeah, that was still in there, yeah. That's gone.
But as a thing, I found it impossible for a person who would just come into CRM without any experience. I don't know how they would pass the exam.
No, and I think even people who've been using it for a while struggled with the 2016 exam because it included so much. I mean, you see here from the objective domain, when you look at it, it's got a lot of things. Now, you've concentrated, the core things are leads and opportunities and the product catalog. They're really important. You'll get lots of questions on those.
Yes.
You'll get a bit on business process flows. But there is a new topic, the relationship insights, which is a preview feature. You will get a number of questions, more than a handful. So on that. So, and it's just one module in the DLP.
Yeah.
So you have to go to the docs, and what's actually happened is the user interface has changed in your trials. The UI for this has changed. How you enable it's changed slightly. I couldn't find it yesterday.
Yeah, a few things have changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. For instance, they've updated the user interface on a number of the entities, so you can't find things. And the docs.microsoft.com hasn't kept up to date with some of those changes.
It hasn't, but it's still very, very useful. So most of the how-to guides that I use are from there as well. So they're still very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Girls, any other questions?
Julian, I had to miss a minute because of cat activity. Can I just ask you, did you mention about the software that will track for sound and movement when you're doing the exam?
Oh no, yes. So yes, you're monitored all the time through the webcam and microphone. So yes, you can't allow anybody to come in while you're taking the exam. So if you've got cats or young children, you need to make sure that's one of the reasons I take my exams quite late at night, because everybody's asleep. The cats are fed, they're asleep, and they won't bother me. But if I close the door, one of my cats will likes to batter the door down, and he's so loud it would actually trigger the sensing. Yeah, you're not allowed to have anybody come into the room while you're taking the exam.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Julian. If no one has any other questions, I think that was very useful, actually. Yeah. So we do appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
I'm going to sit and watch now.
Thank you. Right. So,
Anna, does my screen stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks.
Cool. So there it is, exam preparation. As Julian mentioned, we did go through quite a lot of material through our course, but I felt the same way too. We do need the hands-on experience, so it's very good that everyone is to do a little bit of dynamics, but then the others, we should still try it out, because you've seen, when I do it and it's a demo and sometimes it still fails, because it does. But then when you do it, it's so much harder, isn't it? You can't find options, or all of a sudden things don't react the way you are expecting them to. By the way, Anita, I did get your email. We can have a look at it as soon as you feel better. So do start adding leads, qualifying them, opportunities, go through business processes, add activities, follow them through and see where you get stuck, because there's where I can help you. As Julian also mentioned, we should take our exams before May. In theory, this course ends in 2 weeks anyway, in theory. In practice, if anyone's interested, I'll still hang around and do practice exams. Oh, you managed to do it. Okay. There might be Anita didn't manage to qualify a lead. Sometimes there are issues with the lead form. So if you're on the wrong form, you might not be able to qualify the lead, for example. That happened to me, but in all honesty, it was something that I had done. So I modified the lead form and then it was missing an element, and this is why I couldn't qualify. But Anita, you should be able to qualify from the form as well. So we'll still have a look at that. So as I was saying, we'll finish all of our information, all the information that we have to by the end of the 12 sessions, as I promised. However, once everyone books their exam before May, I'm gonna hang around to do some preparation, maybe some exercises, even a workshop. If you guys want to, we could do a workshop. Right, that's it for me. Claire was supposed to do an advanced find and search capability tonight. Claire, you can give us a little bit of an intro, and then we'll do it next time, because I think it's fair to give you more time than just 10 minutes. Yeah, what do you say?
Yeah, I was just going to cover the different searches, which are quick find, global search, which is also known as categorized search if you activate your relevance search. Has everybody activated their relevance search option? Put your hand up.
Well, do you know what? Why not do it now? Why not? Let's see. And if we don't have time, then we'll leave a little bit of a subject for next time. But,
okay, so I can do it now, but if you have to go, I won't be offended. You can always watch it back on playback.
I won't go for sure.
Okay. I'll do it quickly.
I'm very interested in your presentation.
Okay, so now I'm going to try and share my screen without cutting everybody off. I'm not sure if I'm going to succeed.
It's a little green thing that looks like a screen with an arrow.
Okay, so now I'm going to try and...
Yeah, I can see myself.
The right one. So that's my instance, and I need my presentation. Okay, great. So hopefully... I'll just switch between, yeah, okay. So yeah, this is searches in Dynamics 365 customer engagement. And I'm a regular at my local vet because we have 3 cats. That one that looks like a cushion at the back is also a cat. And the waiting room's always full, and they need to get customer and pet information really quickly. So I thought the search functions could be really useful for them. So the first search that I found was Quick Find, and it's a single entity search, so it only looks at one record. And it works in 2 ways, begins with and wildcard. So we'll have a look at those on the instance. So the search box for your Quick Find is the top right of each grid. So we're looking at opportunities. So the begins with option, I'm going to start typing in a search term and hit the looking glass. And you can see it's come up with a response for me because I was looking for the 3 rabbits that need their teeth sorting out. So since the search term is read from left to right, if you're looking for 3 rabbits, but you only type in rabbits, you're not going to get any results. Okay, so that was begins with. Now the wildcard is you put in your asterisk or star, and you can type in partial information from your search if you can't remember all of the information you need to find. And again, you get your result. Okay, so that's quick find. So the next search that we're going to look at.
Sorry, I just want to jump in there just for a little bit. Sometimes you really forget what you've got in there. So as long as you type in 3 letters, it will find your information.
Okay. Like that, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's find another one as well.
Yes, exactly. So you'll find different combinations. That's all.
Okay. Okay. So that was quick find, and it was begins with or wildcard with partial info. So then we've got global search. Now this is a multi-entity quick find, and it's going to group your results by entity type. So as I say, if you've enabled your relevance search, then global search is also known as categorized. And let's have a look at that one. So this is the global search icon up here on your navigation bar. What I'm going to do is go back to my opportunities. So we start from the beginning again. Okay, I need to clear that search. There we go. So global search. So this time I'm going to look for 3 rabbits again. Right, because I've enabled my relevance search, you can see over here that I've got a drop down and I have to switch it back to categorized. Okay, so here's my result. It's found an opportunity with my 3 rabbits in. So I'm going to try another search, and this time I'm going to use the wildcard and look for cats. And then again, I've got my results shown in the categories, and I've got an activity and an opportunity. So in the categorized search, I can filter my results. Okay. So also, if you've got the right permissions, with the quick find, you can customize the fields that you're going to search against. And in the global search or categorized search, you can pick 10 entities to search against. Okay, so back to global search. So like the quick find, you can see that it works in 2 ways, with the begins with and the wildcard. And it searches across multiple records this time, not just the one record type. Okay, the relevance search that I keep talking about. So this is disabled by default. So you're going to have to go into your system setting, into the general tab, and about halfway down you can activate your relevance search. This is interesting because unlike the categorized search, it comes back with a single list and it's going to show you your results by relevance. And it's going to match any word in your search term to any field in the entities you search. That means it's also going to have a look in your notes, email attachments and appointments, and it doesn't need a wildcard. So I've listed the file formats that you can use it with. And also when you get your results, you can filter them and you can use things called facets, which we'll have a look at now. So the relevance search is only in your online instances because it uses an external Azure technology for a more high performance search. So let's have a look for a relevance search. So let's go to sales opportunities and okay, I'm going to search for dog worming, staying on a veterinary theme, and I believe that you can use either this box or this one on the navigation bar. Okay, let me just see what I've done wrong. Okay, there we go. So yes, let's stick with this one up here then and not this one. So these are my relevant search results. You can see that it's actually put the search terms in italics. So even if the words aren't together, it's showing me results for them. And you can see it's not just search for dog, it's brought back results with dogs. So you get different inflections of the words that you put in. And on the left hand side, there are filters. You've got created on, modified on, record type. And you can use these filters to change the results that you see. For example, you can move the sliders along. And these closed date and modified on, these are time and date facets that you can use to filter your results. So the relevant search is text-based. So it's going to search through lines of text and option sets and lookups, but it's no use to you if you want to look for dates or numbers. Right, so that's relevance. And right, this is the last search we're going to look at, and this is the most interesting one. Advanced Find is for complex search criteria, and you can find it on your navigation bar. It's the funnel icon, or I like to think of it as a martini glass. So here we go. If you click on that icon, it's going to open your Advanced Find form, and I'll make that a bit bigger for you. I don't know if you can see that okay. Okay, so the interesting thing here is that I was in my opportunities view, and you can see that my form's opened in the opportunities view. So we're going to do a new search, and this time I'm going to look for topic contains rabbit. So yeah, you can see I've built my own query, and now I can test my query by clicking on results. And we get back to the 3 rabbits that need their teeth sorting out. Okay, I can also create a more complex search. If I go back to the Advanced Find tab, I'm going to add another line with topic, and this time I'm going to ask it to contain cats. Okay, for this search, what I'm going to do is select both rows, and I'm going to group them together with OR, so that when I ask for the results, it's going to find anything with rabbit and anything with cats in. There we go, it's found me 2 results. So in Advanced Find, if we go back to the Advanced Find tab, you can also edit your columns in your results. In this case, I'm going to add a column. I'm going to choose customer need so that I can see what the customer wants. And you can use these arrows to move your columns around. I'm going to place it next to topic and say OK. So now when I look at my results, I can immediately see next to the topic exactly what they want. Okay, so let's go back to the Advanced Find tab, and I don't know if you noticed, but all the fields here are editable, so we can change any of them to anything we want. That means we can edit the entire query. That's because when I set up my personal options, for the default Advanced Find mode, I selected Details. So if I click on this button here, Details, this is what your actual standard user would see, because they don't get the opportunity to change the query. they can only change the final parameter. So for example, a normal user could say, I want to find a parrot, or I want to find results with dogs. And then they can click on the results. And there we go. Oh, I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background. Apologies for that. That's live action from the animals. So, right. So the next feature in Advanced Find that's interesting is you can search not just against primary records. If I clear the search down and say we'll do a new search, what I'm going to do is, this is a primary record at the moment, opportunities. You can also search for related records. If you scroll all the way down, you get to the related list. So we've got an opportunity, and it gives you the chance to link records. So I'm going to select a contact, contains data, and we'll have address 1 equals, because it's a city, I'm going to put Nottingham. If I hit results now, if I have veterinary practices in, say, Sheffield and Birmingham and Nottingham, I can use that advanced find to see which of my customers are in Nottingham and what they need doing. So once we've once we've got our results, we've tested the query, we're happy with the query and the results, you can actually save your query. So we'll give it a name. Let's call it New Nottingham. Customers in Notts. And I'm going to save that view. Okay, so we can go to our Save Views button. And you can see that's the new query that's become a personal view. Now, personal views are private unless you share them, as opposed to system views, which are available to everyone in your organization. So we have it there, and if I minimize the form and make this a bit smaller, we can go back to my views. What I need to do is hit Control F5 to update, to refresh everything. Okay, so if I look under the list of views with this down arrow, you can see New Nottingham. That's the view we just created. And it's showing the results in the grid view. Okay, so once you've created your query and tested it by clicking on results and then saved it and converted it into a personal view, there are a couple of things you can do with it. And that includes, if we go back to the Advanced Find form and we've selected the view, you can assign your saved view to someone, so a user or a team. And in this case, I'm going to assign it to Anna. And when you assign a view, you actually transfer ownership to the person you've assigned it to. The other thing you can do is share it. So if I share this with Anna, I can decide what I want to let Anna do with my personal view. So for example, I could let her read it and share it with other people. Okay, so the final thing that you can do with your view that you've created is export it to Excel. So on the top right hand side up here, you can see your options for exporting, and you get the option to export your data to different worksheets. So basically, you're not exporting the view, you're exporting the results or the data that you obtained using your query that became your personal view. Okay, let me see if I can get back to my presentation. So that was Advanced Find, which allows you to build your query, create columns and move them around, effectively join or link related records, save your personal view, which you can then assign or share, and export your results. You can also apply templates to the results, which I think Anna demonstrated templates in the last session. So thanks for listening, and in case you found it heavy going, that's a picture of some kittens for you. Okay, I don't know if you have any questions. I would try to answer them for you.
That was amazing. Thank you.
That was great.
That was lovely, and we loved the kittens at the
Really
end.
good. Thank you.
Okay, I think the kittens are the best bit. Oh, I need to stop sharing my screen. I'm not sure how I do that.
You're good. You're not sharing your screen any
Oh,
longer.
has it stopped sharing? Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So does anyone have any questions?
Oh, that was great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Claire will share a step-by-step on how she did all that, and you'll find it up on the website, including how to activate relevant search.
Yeah.
For everyone to be able to use it, and activate global search for or categorize search for your entities. This is something a lot of companies miss out on. They just don't know how they can activate global search in particular, and then they just don't use it. They only use Advanced Find, which is much harder to use when you're just looking for a record. So yeah, that was really very useful. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you.
Yeah, right, guys. If no one has any more questions, thank you very much for attending this. I think this was a really, really very useful session for all of us. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, what are we doing on Thursday?
So on Thursday, we're going to do business process flows.
Okay.
And lead qualification. So it's gonna get quite interesting. I'm interested in seeing what the girls are gonna do as well. So Anya and Dana are gonna do business process flows, and Nicole is doing the lead entity and the qualification. So Nicole's probably gonna start. Right, Nicole?
Yes. Sorry, I've got Chris busy poking me in the background here.
And then the girls are gonna go through, the rest and show us business process flow in a little bit more detail. This is what we're gonna do next time. What I do suggest, guys, every time first of all, I think these sessions are brilliant because you get to exercise and also you're showing your skills. Because as Julian mentioned a few times, and I've mentioned it as well, unless we do it, we won't know the quirks of it, and then within the in the exam we might not know if we missed a detail or anything like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. Welcome back, Nicole and Carrie. I'm very glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
If you need any support or assistance, please let me know. Thank you for joining, Anita. I know you're not feeling well. And thanks, Julian, most of all, for helping us tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.